Draft season is approaching, so let's get into my first lottery big board for 2025, where I'm going to go over my top 14 players in this very strong class featuring Colin Murray Boyles and his very, very nice smile. This board is going to be split into tiers as always, which I'll talk about my board and my philosophy, and we'll get into it with tier 1. 250 likes we're going to set as a like goal. That would be incredible. You guys have been doing amazing with the support. I appreciate everything so much. So a like, sub, comment, all of that would be hugely appreciated. Tier 1.1 is Cooper Flag. This one I don't think is going to be very complicated. I have a whole video on Flag, but the definition of a tier for the most part is every player within a tier can be ordered in basically any way, and I would pretty much always take a player of a higher tier above a player of a lower tier. So Flag, there's nobody I would even consider above him in this draft at this point. You should check out the full breakdown I did on him. I'll have it on my channel. I think his upside as a legit shot maker has been underrated this summer. As Flag, if he can hit his ceiling as a shot maker, has a legit like top 5 guy in the league ceiling because of the defense that he can bring and the fact that he could be one of these like legit awesome 6'10 tall pull-up shooters that just nobody can stop because he can shoot over everyone, and he's an amazing passer as well. I think the ceiling for him is the highest in the class, the floor is the highest in the class. You can't go wrong with Cooper Flag, and I'm so excited to watch him at Duke. And here's him locking up AJ Dybantsa, who many people think is the best prospect in high school. He's the total package. Don't overthink Cooper Flag. I'm not going to spend much time on this one. And here's him getting a nice steal, practicing with the USA select team. I think they call it a foul, but stunt, recover, good stuff from Coop. Let's get on to tier 2 here, which is my tier of guys who I think could legit be like all NBA ceiling, top 20 type players in the league if everything goes right. That upside is critical for my evaluations. And at number 2, we have Rocco Zikarsky. Also did an in-depth breakdown of the short is 17 years old, 7'2", incredible rim protector and mover to kind of fit in the modern NBA with his ground coverage, special timing and instincts and reflexes as a rim protector, and can move like he's a 6'8" big. It's remarkable. And I think that movement skill could lead to some real offensive upside if he can improve as a handler and as a driver on the perimeter. But Rocco to me is the type of guy who can be like a Gobert, Brook Lopez level depoy type contender. Here's him locking up Alex Sarr. And I think that's one of the most valuable commodities in the NBA aside from legit like primary initiator potential, which is what the rest of this tier is going to be filled with. But yeah, I'm so excited to see what Rocco does with more minutes this year. I think he has the potential to be like legit special on defense as like an anchor big with some real fun complementary offense stuff. So Zikarsky at 2 for me. And then at 3, and 3 and 4 are Traore and Harper. And as I said, this whole tier is interchangeable, and I go back and forth on who I like more. And I think it's kind of a pick your flavor type. I just did a video on Traore that was pretty in-depth. Traore is more of your like traditional on-ball, heliocentric initiator advantage creator type with his amazing burst and handling and paint touch generation, all the stuff that we talked about. He is probably the best bet if you want a guy who is going to have the ball in his hands all the time, is going to be a dominant advantage creator, going to be a great passer, potentially a really nice shooter and defender. Like all of this kind of on-ball stuff is where Traore is really special. The advantage creation, the paint touches, as we talked about. And Harper can do this too, but I think he's not as potent, but he is bigger and stronger and probably better at like passing and defense as well. So Harper loves to use his like change of pace and some of the strength stuff. Beautiful spin move there, Euro step, finishing with his right weak hand. Harper is an awesome driver. I didn't actually mean to show that clip twice, but regardless, Harper blowing by defender. Like his burst is good, but it's not nearly as good as Traore's. He's not that level of athlete, but he is way taller and stronger, and he has he's ability to like throw right-handed skip passes. This is crazy. Like your 17-year-old point guard throwing contested off weak hand skip passes. Like Harper's passing is legitimately awesome for a guy of his size and strength. And defensively, he's fantastic as well. Harper can rotate from the weak side for blocks. As I kind of mentioned at the end of the Traore video that I think there's some defensive upside for him, but Harper I think could legit be like a defensive stopper. So do you want more of like a potent advantage creating initiator, or a more two-way but better off-ball, less potent on-ball guy in Harper. I think you can go either way with those two. And honestly, Zakarsky, I would be fine with any of these three at the number 2 spot in this class. I think they're all that quality of prospect, which is awesome to have 4 guys in this class compared to last year who I think are legit like high standout talents. And then let's get to tier 3, which is the rest of my lottery. So any of these guys you can have in pretty much any order you want, but this is my order. And we're going to start at the top with 3 really excellent guards. So I think maybe are a little more flawed or don't have the ceiling of Traore and Harper, but are excellent. And we'll start with Kasparas Jakučionis, who I just made a video of, can you read the game like him? But I want to talk a little bit more about his really special pull-up shooting potential. Jakučionis has the innate ability to like transition from dribble to pull, and that combination of elite pull-up shooting and passing is rare and tends to lead to stars. Like Halliburton immediately comes to top of my mind. Luka, he's not that level necessarily of like a Luka type, but 6'4" point guard who is an absurd playmaker out of the pick and roll, really great pull-up shooter, and has enough burst and kind of craftiness as a driver, I think, to survive going downhill, even if he's not the level of advantage creator that a guy like, I don't know, like Traore or even Harper. But I think his initiator ceiling is crazy high. He's been a star this summer, like dominant at the youth levels, and I would certainly bet on him rising. I have a couple buddies who work in the league who are extremely high on him, so I would expect his names like pop up in mainstream circles quite a bit as intel gets around. But Kasparas Jakučionis, he's going to Illinois, by the way. I'll start trying to include these teams. Cooper Flag going to Duke. Harper is obviously going to be at Rutgers, and then Zakarsky playing in Australia, and Jakučionis in Barcelona, I believe. And number 6, we're going to get to one who I think is kind of a hot take for me that most people don't have in their lottery, I see, but Boogie Fland, who's going to Arkansas. He is another special advantage creator point guard, and you can see how much I value this skill set, right? This like high-end initiator stuff. This is what breeds stars, and Boogie can like create separation on pull-up threes like the best of them. Like, oh my goodness, just ridiculous change of pace and direction with his handle. He might be the best ball handler in this entire class with incredible change of pace, reaction time, and speed. I'm gonna just let y'all enjoy this clip right here. Whew, the nutmeg is absolutely filthy, as Boogie to me has the handle, burst, and general ability to get to whatever spot he wants on the floor at any time he wants with his crazy advantage creation, change of pace, and he's a really excellent passer as well. I love watching him cook against like even really good defenders like Cooper and Liam McNeely, who we're going to get to in a little bit. Splits the pick and roll, hangs in the air, ends up drawing a foul there. I do have some concerns about Fland's finishing and his size on the defensive end, but I'm willing to bet on a guy who kind of reminds me of like Darius Garland, honestly, I'd say is the best Boogie Fland comp, or at least acolyte to me. But I think his advantage creation is really special, and I'm always going to bet on these potent advantage creating guards who can also really shoot the ball and pass as well. I think Boogie can be an offensive engine of, a good team one day, as long as the roster construction around him is right. And that's the kind of guy I want to bet on really high in drafts, someone with the ability to get to any spot, bend defenses, and punish as a scorer and a creator. The upside for him, to me, if he improves his strength, is sky high. And then we have VJ Edgecombe, who I tried to make a video of. I deliberately misspelled his name because I think YouTube thinks his name is some kind of vulgarity, which, this is a family-friendly show. We don't support that. I tried to upload a video of his that got fully taken down, but Edgecombe is a ridiculous defensive prospect. He's one of the best defensive high school guards I've ever seen. Only like 6'2", but is a legit rim protector with incredible bounce, timing, and reflexes right there. Awesome at the point of attack, and I'm a little lower on VJ than some. I have him at 7 in this third tier, because I think there's been a bit of offensive stagnation with his game. He's so good getting downhill with like quick moves and stuff, and when he goes in a straight line, like there's not much you can do. And this is a great pass right here. Edgecombe's passing to me is inconsistent, but I'm a little lower because I think the consistency of his, shooting and playmaking and just general creation stuff, I have questions about. But if Edgecombe continues to develop and progress like we saw in FIBA, would not shock me to see him work his way into the top 5 or even higher of my board. He is just a different kind of mover athlete type that I totally understand being higher on than I am. And I think regardless, his defense is going to be incredible. I just have some pause about an older, like sophomore age 6'2 guard who isn't an incredible shooter or playmaker or handler or anything like that. But I think his athletic tools, and he has enough shooting in the field to where I think you can bet on that and make a good living out of that. And then we have Ace Bailey, who I have made a video about already, again, who I'm definitely lower on than most people. We'll talk about some of the good, right? His contested shot making, this kind of like fadeaway stuff is all ridiculous. He doesn't always create a ton of separation, but tall players like 6'8", 6'9", with this kind of tough shot making prowess are always really valuable, and the league values them more than probably someone like I would, because I think there are some issues with advantage creation. A lot of Ace's shots are really difficult, and it's hard to live on a difficult shot diet. But I think plays like this are really encouraging, where Ace's best thing to me is his fluidity as an athlete. He's not super strong or explosive, but when his handle works, which his handle is a work in progress, I think improving that will go a long way to helping his creation. Cross here to get past Kamania, wonky kind of Euro step off of his right foot, scooping under, like this kind of not strength or explosion, but fluidity based creation to me is going to be really interesting to see if Ace can tap into this bag more at Rutgers. And also interesting to see to what extent he can, like I said, improve the handle, because at this point it's pretty weak and underdeveloped, and just improve his habits in terms of taking contested shots, reading the floor. He picks up the ball, and like I said, he's not super comfortable creating advantages. He loves to pick up the ball whenever he gets in a tough spot on offense and rely on his jumper or making passes like this. So I do think those are all reasons. The feel, the advantage creation, that I'm lower on Ace, but I do think there's been some pick and roll passing flashes to where, like, it wouldn't shock me if Ace was a way better passer than I thought. Is so inconsistent at times, but really impressive, like wrap pass bounce into a really tight window there, playing back in AAU. And again, we're going to see him run a pick and roll with some hesitation and hit a live dribble lay down pass there. So I think if Ace is better than I think, it's probably going to be because the passing is just much better than I think, which is possible, of course. I still think Ace is a great prospect. It's just a very stacked class. And I feel the same way about Common Maluak, who I have a long video on that you should watch. Incredible defensive mover, but unlike Zikarsky, who I'm much higher on, I think the lack of polish and feel are going to hurt him. He is a special mover and is more explosive than Zikarsky, and theoretically then that rim protection upside is so high. But offensively, I have a lot of worries about his touch and his feel overall, even though some of the flashes like this are really awesome. Maluak is one of the players I'm most interested in watching at Duke, because I think if he can put together the flashes, he could be a top 3 pick easily because of his level of rim protection and potential offensive stuff. But I could also see him being like a lower level first round pick if he can't really hang on offense and his defense isn't consistent, but there are big flashes. So Maluak to me has a really big range. So I'm just kind of going to slot him in the middle of the round here at number 9. And then at number 10, we have my boy, Will Riley, who I recently did a video reacting to his best game. And I wanted to showcase more of his playmaking, because I do think his passing is really quite good. His main thing is the shot making, but he draws too because he's a dangerous shot maker and then passes low over the top. Riley's playing at Illinois, by the way. Edgecombe is playing at Baylor, which I should have said. Riley just times up everything really well, which I think bodes well for his on-ball creation. This is a great job waiting for this kind of nail defender to sink as deep as possible before whipping it back to the top of the key to the popper for a wide open three-point attempt. He has a really great understanding of timing and pace as a driver, and I love this little manipulation on the jump pass, very Halliburton-esque, as I said in that last video. Riley here going to kind of like, looks like he's almost staring down this middle pass, tricking this tagger into sinking down to the roller, but oh no, Riley's just going to kick to the corner, who ends up being wide open. So I think these kind of passing flashes combined with the shot making from pretty much all over the floor that we already know about. He's great at these little like scoop floaters. He's going to have to get a lot better physically and strength wise, but if he can do that, I think there's so much like low-hanging fruit development because of how crazy special his touch and some of the playmaking feel stuff is. So I think Riley as this like high upside big ball handler, it wouldn't shock me to see him disappointing and not being able to hang just because of defensive concerns like strength, and he's not as efficient getting to the rim. But if the shot making and the handling holds up and he can get to the rim a little bit, that's a really, really dangerous player who I think can be like a legit star on ball creator. A bit more risky, like as you can see, this tier 3 has guys to me who have big ceilings like Ace and Maluash and Riley, but might be a little bit more risky. And talk about another guy who has a big ceiling that's very underrated. Colin Murray Boyles, sophomore at South Carolina, the only returner on this list, who he's like a 6'7" power forward or isn't really a shooter, so I think he's not getting nearly as much credit as he deserves when he has all of the quote-unquote outlier traits that I talk about so many times on this channel as indicators of upside. And defensively, he is phenomenal. Crazy wingspan, insanely strong, great mover, and he tracks back here and disrupts that lob as a drop defender. Here he slides in the perimeter, forces a pass out, and is going to rotate and get a block to end this play. His versatility on the defensive end is spectacular, and I'm going to do a full breakdown on Murray Boyles at some point. I don't have a ton of offensive clips for him in here, but he has incredibly high feel as a playmaker with real like manipulation and timing, all of that good stuff. Great job sliding down here into the space. He can really dribble and create on the interior with his strength, and I think there's enough like special post interior scoring with the passing upside that he could be some kind of weird, wacky star in a way we don't expect, where I've talked about like it's kind of hard to envision what Murray Boyles would look like as a star in the NBA, but he has all these unique traits: his feel, his wingspan, his strength, all this stuff, his scoring touch on the interior that could lead to star upside. And even if not, I think his floor is pretty high just because he's going to be an awesome defender. I do have some high-end concerns with his rim protection because he can at times like not be big or long or explosive enough to get to some shots like a center, but I wouldn't have him playing full-time 5 anyway. I think as like a hybrid, I am somewhat worried about his shooting, but overall his special traits are enough to land him easily in the lottery. And then at 12, I believe. Yes, at 12, we're getting down there. Liam McNeely, who just transferred to UConn. Maybe the best off-ball shooter in the draft as he hit this crazy game winner in the McDonald's All-American scrimmage. He's like 39% on high volume throughout his entire career and is so comfortable like coming off of screens, sprinting to his left and to his right, backing up into elevators. He, to me, is kind of the prospect that people want Reese's Share to be, like legit awesome off-ball shooter, but has this crazy, like, this real secondary passing game where he can run a side pick and roll and hit a nice little pocket pass. He's a fantastic on and off-ball defender. Here we see him again in the McDonald's All-American game. He's going to draw help. He's just so decisive, like always making great smart decisions. He sees the help stepping up just briefly here, and that's all the window he needs to lay it down to the big for a wide open shot at the rim. And McNeely has showcased a little bit of creation stuff. I think his upside is kind of limited because he just isn't really a creator, but he has great touch and he's really crafty with like spin moves, drawing fouls and stuff. So I think, though I don't know if the upside is crazy for McNeely, his like 3-and-D stuff, he's like your traditional quote-unquote 3-and-D guy in this class, but he can really pass, I think, and defend at a high level, and his shooting is versatile enough to carry him to value. So I don't know if McNeely is going to end up being a star or anything, but inside the lottery, I could see him easily being a really valuable like 4th or 5th starter on a great team, and that's worth a lottery pick in almost every draft, even really strong ones like this. At number 13, I have a guy who might be a little controversial to be lower on him, is Hugo Gonzalez, who I feel like people really love, but I'm a little lower, and my main worries come on the offensive end, where he's a very inconsistent shooter, and the feel and like change of pace stuff is worrying. He can't really dribble at this point, and he doesn't really seem to have a great feel for like space and creating advantages or, playmaking. to other spots of the floor. But Gonzalez is an unbelievable athlete who has improved a little bit as a shooter. I think adding these like movement shots has been big for him, and like the shooting versatility component of his development, which I've talked about a lot as being important on the channel. Gonzalez's main thing though is his defense, where his incredible explosion vertically, speed, strength, all of that stuff. He's like a monstrous, like quote unquote traditional athlete, because he is just so damn fast and strong and explosive. That allows him to protect the rim and shade down, as well as just sliding and overwhelming guys as an on-ball defender. He's another one of these prospects who I'm a little worried about the upside, just because I don't know how great his touch is, and his feel isn't that great. But defensively, I think he can be a monster defensive guard. Like, he is so damn explosive, and I think he has the potential to be role versatile too, as a guy who we've seen in these like short set of clips guard the perimeter as an on-ball guy, dig at the nail, and kind of create traffic, protect shots at the rim, block shots, alter shots, all that good stuff. So if Gonzalez can improve this year as a handler, as an advantage creator, as a passer, all these things that are definitely harder to progress, but the fact that he can get downhill and draw fouls so well on the offensive end is going to help give him a certain floor. I don't know exactly what the upside looks like for Gonzalez, but another one I think is probably going to be a good player regardless, just because he has the incredible slashing and defense stuff, even if the shooting isn't amazing. So Gonzalez is another one who I could definitely see myself putting way higher as the season goes on. But let's get into our last lottery player on the board, and that is Jalil Bethea, who is going to Miami this year. And he is a ridiculous scorer. Maybe the best, like one of the best pure scoring perimeter players, as a fantastic on and off ball shot maker. We talk about volume, versatility. Bethea is comfortable pulling off of movement, off of screens, step backs from NBA range. All that stuff is squarely within his toolkit. And the fact that he can get these shots off in a variety of ways, playing on or off the ball, is really good for his, not only his ceiling as one of these like crazy shot maker types, but also for his ability to play next to other stars, right? He's comfortable relocating and spacing from NBA range and hitting these kind of really tough jumpers, but he can also work a little bit as like a secondary driver on the ball. We can see his handle isn't amazing. Like, he definitely, it's a little high and he loses the ball at times, and Bethea can kind of struggle there. But when he gets by guys, he's pretty quick, and that touch, that same touch he shoots the ball with helps him around the basket as well. Bethea, I think, is a pretty simple evaluation at this point. Just a really dynamic shooter, like combo guard type, who I think is a solid defender, like solid playmaker. And I think as like a Malik Monk role, maybe off-ball guard with some secondary playmaking scoring stuff, he could be really great. I think maybe there's a star outcome ceiling in there somewhere if he's just a special shot maker. But regardless, I think Bethea has, again, the chance to be at least a really good complementary player. So that's the lottery. Really, really strong lottery at this point. Just to recap, Cooper Flagg in Tier 1, Zakarsky, Traore, and Harper in Tier 3 as the All-NBA guys. And I guess Tier 3 is kind of a mix of high ceiling guys with a little bit more risk, like Maluash or Riley, or lower ceiling prospects like Murray Boyles or McNeely or Gonzalez, who I think are going to be really good. But that's the lottery, guys. Let me know what you think about this kind of new style of video, and hit that like button. That would be awesome. Thank you so much.